Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure, as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbon TV or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. Do you want to become a better shooter, reduce flinch, protect your ears, and just overall enjoy shooting your gun that much more? Then there's no better way to do that than by adding a suppressor to the end of your barrel. Be sure to check out Huxworks Safety Company, as they are a leader in the suppressor world with their OSS flow-through technology, virtually eliminating blowback and toxic gas that can affect weapon system performance and shooter health. To find out more about Huxworks, go to huxwrx.com. That's huxworks.com, and go get yourself a suppressor for your upcoming hunts. This podcast is also proudly brought to you by Onyx Hunt. When I first got into hunting, I kept hearing all about public land and different access and how to find different locations to hunt. I was like, well, how are people even identifying all this stuff? Well, sure enough, I came across the number one hunting GPS app, and that is Onyx Hunt. If you guys want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, Onyx Hunt is the number one GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust Onyx Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. It was a game changer for me, and I know it's going to be a game changer for you if you've never used it. If you have used it, you know the power that it holds. Guys, I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you want to know more about Onyx, go to onyxmaps.com/hunt. and check out their app. Be blessed, freedom on, and stay soulful. If you're in the market for optics, I want you to go check out blackdiamondoptics.com. Black Diamond Optics offers world-class sporting and tactical optics, including thermals, all at wholesale pricing, direct to consumer. They are going to be partnering up with us for 2023, and I want to start pointing you over towards their direction. Check out Black Diamond Optics. If you've got any questions about it, shoot us a message. Love to hear from you. Be blessed, everybody. All right, guys, if you're looking for a better way to stay hydrated this coming hunting season and on all your adventures in the future, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Their swig rig is awesome, an absolute game changer when it comes to staying hydrated. I get tired of playing around with any water bladders in my bag and having to remove things to get to them and the chance of them puncturing and all that. So what Hardside did, take Nalgene's, got multiple sizes, and you're attaching your hose straight to that. Keep it on the outside of your pack, a lot easier to use. They also have a lot of other cool things. Go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10. That's all one word. Save yourself 10% at checkout. Hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Be blessed. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. I am co-hosted tonight by my fellow Texan, Samuel Flatlander Singleton, who came with us on our spring bear hunt and took me on my very first hog hunt here in Texas. And we're joined by the one and only, the illustrious and mysterious Andrew McKean. He is somebody who has written many articles that you have probably read that you might not have even made the connection to. Former editor-in-chief of Outdoor Life magazine, and just an all-around great guy, and a wordsmith of words. Wordsmith of words. You like that?
Yes, sir.
I'm working on that. I'm working on my podcast hosting game, apparently, Andrew. Anyways, guys, without further ado, we got somebody who I've been tracking down and been on him like a hound at night, trying to get him to be a guest on this podcast, because when I started the show, there was one person I wanted, and that was this guy, Andrew McKean, and he'd always give me the slip. I finally was able to lock down a date with him, and it happened short notice, so without further ado, I give to you the one and only Mr. Andrew McKean from Northern Montana, everybody. Woo!
So I feel like you finally bagged your trophy. You know, it's like being the trophy, I don't know how I feel about it. So now I'm putting myself in the position of some bucks I've hunted hard and well for a long time, and wait a minute, am I that to you?
Yeah.
Which I'm actually fine with that, because you're right. We have been pursuing this eventuality for, I'm going to peg it at 4 years.
You are correct.
So what your listeners might not know is that Johnny Mack started this pursuit out of the ether of middle school, I don't even know what you taught, but you're like out of the educational like detritus, right? Somebody who was just prepossessed, who had to like make connections with people, which I think is what teachers do. Honestly, I think you are a natural teacher. Anyway, you're right, Johnny. We've been talking about this for a long time. Finally, it was just like this afternoon. He's like, "What are you doing tonight?" I'm like, "Well, I got some meetings, but let's just do this." So I'm happy Sam's involved because I don't know what we're going to talk about, but
Man, I
it's
feel
got to be
like
good.
I kind of feel like the pack mule here.
Well,
You're the buck, Johnny's the hunter. I guess I feel like a pack mule.
well, let me tell you, I'll just lead the string along and we'll make it happen. So,
All right, perfect.
brother, I'm honored. It has been so much fun to see you write and learn and see how you operate within the outdoor space. I have a huge amount of respect for you. Obviously, you are not my target buck because I'm not going to mount you and put you on my wall, but I will honor you with dignity and respect and and appreciate
Come
your
on,
work.
I feel like I've got all the attributes. I got a bowed neck. My belly hangs a little low. Like, I got a Roman nose. Like, I'm a mature buck. Like, you can do whatever.
I mean, it's November. You might let that tongue hang out a little bit,
My neck has been swelling in the last couple of days.
Oh, goodness. I love it. Well, one of the things that I have been doing here at Soul Seekers is really identifying my 6 core pillars that I want to hang my hat on. One of those, as you know, has always been conservation in the podcast. Our mission of mentorship is conservation, and we always talk about how you can never outgive good. And here I am. I've gone from relocating myself, of learning how to hunt in the state of Washington, to moving to the state of Texas. And you would think hunting is hunting, and yet it feels like there are things that I'm like, I had no idea, no concept of it. And so as I've been diving down this road of learning how to hunt, it brings about a lot of different questions. And so today's topic is all about the universal truths of hunting, whatever that means, right, Sam?
That's correct.
Andrew, when I said the universal truths of hunting, you want to talk about it tonight. What went through your head?
I mean, to be honest with you, I probably would have made some excuse that I was too busy eating stuffed peppers, and like cleaning a couple of sharp-tailed grouse that I got tonight to do this. But if not for that actual tagline, because that's where you got me. Like, I feel like that's a little bit of our bond.
Yeah.
Is this unspoken, undefined undercurrent of what connects us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but I cannot wait to talk about it.
Yeah, it was same. So when I was explaining to Sam about, what it is, I put it out on social media, and I asked people, I go, I'm going to do some research for a podcast topic, and I want to hear what you guys think is some universal truths to hunting. You never know what social media is going to provide, as it can give you some real gems or really real turnoffs. But here are some responses that I got on social media today. One of the universal truths of hunting, as said by somebody, was the end goal is to take a life. Powerful, emotional, finite. Just simple. Like, that's a universal truth. Another person was, play the wind right and you will always succeed. Another person said, if you have a spike tag, you are guaranteed to see a stud buck or giant bull. And then someone else said, the animals are where you find them. And what I really appreciated that is that there's some things that we chuckle like, yeah, funny. And yet they always seem to be true.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But what I really, really figured out is I delineated 2 different directions that we could go off of universal truths. Number one, you can always go off of the tips and tactics of how to hunt, right? How to be a better sportsman, a better woodsman, a better hunter, a better pursuit of the game in which we're going after. The other avenue is the conservation aspect, because hunting is constantly under attack. And there is a big push to bring back the hashtag hunting is human, right? So if hunting is human, then that means if we're all human, it is a universal truth that all of us need to procure food let me get my words correct, procure food to be able to survive. So a universal truth is that we need to be able to do that. So with the ability to persuade public opinion of non-hunters in the conservation realm, not the anti-hunters, but the non-hunters, to have them have an understanding of what is universal truth surrounding hunting.
Right.
These are the big topics that I love to cover. And I also like the tips and tactics of like always keeping the wind in your face, and you're more likely going to be successful. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start on the conservation side or just
Yeah, this is what a great setup. I mean, so let's start with like that existential, like hunting as human sort of like construct, because I think it's real, I think it's right, but I think it's wrong.
Mm.
And I'll explain that a little bit. I think it has been right for so much of human history because it was a necessity. Hunting was like the critical action that allowed us to perpetuate our species. We didn't have fossil fuels. We didn't have houses in a lot of cases. Like we were wearing skins and we had spears. And so in a lot of ways, I do feel like our ability as humanity, as a human like genome to like advance to where we are now, where we sort of control our environment. I don't think it's wrong to call our current era of human existence the Anthropocene, where like humans, the presence of humans on our planet is like the most influential thing in terms of our planetary existence.
Mm-hmm.
But we got here from a really organic way of hunting our way into evolution. And so here's why I think that matters is hunting is human, I think is right. Like that's where we came from. It's why it matters. But it's increasingly like wrong because we have so many luxuries that are afforded to us by a modern economy, by a modern, we live in houses, we've got climate controlled. I mean, good night. Texas is the poster child for climate controlled living, right? You've got to like have air conditioning for like, 11 and a half months of the year, and then heat for 2 weeks of the year. I live in northern Montana, as you've said, you might want to look at the latitude, but we hit 40 below last year. Like without living in a skin hut would have been pretty difficult for us. We hit about 102 or 103 in the summertime. So I've always described where we live as like a very difficult place, but it's probably on both the poles of like the worst summer weather and the worst winter weather. You can't beat us. We also have like mosquitoes that would carry around, would carry off most like antelope fawns.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I'm getting at is, I think increasingly, if we rely on our sort of genetic heritage as hunters, that's irrelevant to an increasingly large number of people who recognize that we don't need to hunt to survive. So I think that's an important recognition for us as hunters to like achieve and like salute.
Yeah.
Because to me, this gets at that existential thing of like, why do we hunt? It's not to feed or to clothe or to shelter us like it was for our ancestors. To me, I think we are responding to like something that's hardwired into humans of having an authentic relationship with the land, having an unfinished business with a game animal. So one of the just beautiful things about hunting is you don't know how it's going to end.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do know how it's going to end, it becomes boring. It becomes sort of irrelevant. But with that open question of like, in philosophy, there's a whole like construct of if then. So if I do this, then this happens.
Yeah.
You think about hunting, every step you take is an if then construct. Do I turn this way? Do I turn that way? If I turn this way, what happens next? Like to me, it's the greatest chess piece and chess game that we could ever ask for. And people who are like devoted to like electronic gaming or like board play gaming are missing out on all of the nuances and like the excitement and the uncertainty, the mystery of hunting. When hunting becomes known and it's not a mystery anymore, I don't know that I would do it. But I I but anyway,
I
that to me is the essence of hunting.
okay, you bring up so iron sharpens iron. So the countenance of one friend to another. I love what you're bringing up, and it makes me also want to just grind against you and sharpen and like let's figure it out. So a couple things that you said that really resonated. Number one, if you knew the outcome of hunting, how it was going to turn out every single time, you probably wouldn't do it. Okay, so what I'm gathering is that you like a challenge. You don't like artificially inseminated or artificially intelligent programming. You don't like programming that's going to be like, okay, we're going to lead you this way. This is what's going to
Yeah,
happen. You want it to be truly organic with a create your own story adventure type book, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like, hey, if you want this to happen, turn to this page, and if you want this to happen, turn to this page, and then just kind of play it out as it goes. I think this is why I want to return to the topic of like hunting is human, is because with artificial intelligence and AI becoming such a thing that is going to be helping and destroying the world all at the same time, because if you're not up to date with the technology or a tradesman, you might get left behind.
yeah.
And so I feel like the hunting is human is because it is organic. It can't be, there's not one formula to the truth of what it is, but yet it's so magnificent and grand. So I think that is extremely important. The other thing is that I'm reading a book right now, and man, there's no coincidences in life. I just happen to have it right here because I was talking to Sam about it. It's called The Surrender Experiment by
Huh.
Michael Singer. Have you ever? Or there you go. There's the title. You ever?
I've never heard of that book, but I know Michael Singer.
Okay, so he
Yeah.
wrote Untethered Soul. Have you ever
Right.
read that? It's one of my favorites. Anyway, so the surrender experiment goes like this. He says, and this guy doesn't talk about hunting in this book. He just talks about this experiment he did with his life. And it was such. Any time that he was approached in life with something that made him internally cringe and be like, "Ugh, I don't want to do that," he surrendered and said, okay, I'll do it. And it was more about where does life take us rather than where do we control our destiny and control it. How does that apply to universal truths of hunting is because for us to be successful in hunting, I think we truly need to let go and surrender to the experience of what it is. Because what you said is that if you knew the outcome over and over and over, you probably just wouldn't do it.
So I'll give you a real world example within our hunting community. Like, I am a big tent person. Like, I want people to experience the world in whatever way that they want to, and that gives them some reward. But a big issue in our community is, and in Texas is a great example of that, is high fence hunting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how small does the fenced place need to be before it is not a fair chase experience? That's an unknowable thing. But if you apply what I just talked about to that sort of construct, if I know the outcome, I'm uninterested. If I know the outcome because the pasture or the fence is so small that I know what's going to happen, count me out. So you can look at that in a lot of different ways. To me, that's what pursuit is all about, is true pursuit. And the success of a hunt, I feel like in a lot of ways, our community has sort of rendered a verdict that a successful hunt is an animal in hand. But I'm not sure that that's the case. I think the pursuit is whatever it might be. And often my favorite hunts never resulted in a dead animal.
Mm-hmm.
But there was some that, like, the open-ended question, like, led me in some ways, like you're talking about. Like, I went to a place I was uncomfortable. I went there. didn't maybe result in an animal, but I remember something about that experience that like informed whatever happened next in my life.
Yeah. What's up, Soul Seekers Nation? Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really appreciate it. As a reward, I have some discount codes for you to use if you are in the market for a brand new hunting pack. Go check out initialascent.com and Initial Ascent packs. They are made in America. Their one-piece carbon frame is an absolute game changer. We run their packs. We love them. And you can save 5% at checkout by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. Also, for those of you who are archery hunters and you are tired of shooting at dots on a target, check out deadnutsoutdoors.com for their lifelike 2D archery targets. You can save 20% on all of their products by using the code SOULSEEKERS at checkout. Once again, the code is SOULSEEKERS, all one word. Go check out initialascent.com and Dead Nuts Outdoors. Enjoy the podcast. I haven't killed a big game animal since 2020. We're in 2023 right now. I run a hunting podcast. I have a hunting TV show. I'm making myself sound bigger than I am. I'm just a dad of 3 young boys that's trying to figure out my way in life with inflation and everything else that's going on. The point is that yes, I have really been disappointed in the lack of meat I've put in my freezer. My wife and I prefer wild game. At the same time, the fact that I haven't killed an animal is like, okay, I got to get back out there. It's driving me nuts. Absolutely driving me nuts. And it's not because I'm not a good shooter or I'm not practicing enough or, whatever it is. I feel like I've been holding on too tight and I've been trying to control my outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even like the word try because either you do or you do not, as Master Yoda said, right? Either you do your outcome or you don't. So the fact that the saying, I'm doing my outcome, that doesn't flow, then that means I just need to let go in the first place. These are the things I want to always learn. I want to always grow. And I want to be humble in it all because I don't know it all. And it is a journey. It is a pursuit.
Yeah. But I'm going to throw out a little bit of I'm going to put a card in your spoke here on this deal because you've got to have in order to stay with it. I mean, I got to give you a lot of credit for sticking with it in the face of diminishing odds. I think this is also from a modern hunter perspective, you've got to have a chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which also spices up the pursuit. As long as you have a chance at something, you're willing to double down on hardship and double down on doubt and all of the things that kind of infiltrate into a hunt. But if you have no chance at something,
why are we doing it?
That's pretty desperate. And the reason I mention that is I see a lot of beginning hunters. And one of the things that Johnny, you and I share in common is this commitment to beginning hunters and beginning hunting. But one of the things that I think we owe people who are coming after us is at least a chance. So at least have some hope that your pursuit will result, maybe not in an animal at your feet, but at least at an encounter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've kind of got an example of that.
Go ahead.
This year, I've archery hunted a little bit, harvested a hog, taken a hog on my first archery sit. But the next 4 sits I just rattled in 3 different bucks and didn't harvest any of them, but gained the experience of watching those bucks work. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's no, I wasn't successful, but was I? You know what I mean? Just a different.
No, I
you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I always measure my hunts, my journey, my growth as a hunter has always been, did I see an animal in which I could have legally shot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I did, then I'm a hunter. Like I've completed my pursuit. Did I squeeze the trigger? Did I get a shot? Did I whatever? It's needless to say. When I started my journey and I will go out hunting and I'd come home, my wife would be like, "Did you get anything?" No. "Did you see anything?" No. I literally just wandered around talking to myself the entire time. That for me is like, okay, I've reached the pinnacle of I know how to hunt.
Yeah.
And in my life, I've always talked about you got to know what you want. Because when you want it bad enough, when you know what you want and you want it bad enough, the how takes care of itself. And so, how do we get to be better hunters? How do we grow the hunting culture? How do we persuade non-hunters to vote for legislation and supportive measures and initiatives to make sure conservation and hunting lasts for generations? We don't have to worry about the how as long as we know about the what. And we always lead with the what. You wake up in the morning, it's like, okay, what do I want from my day? Well, I want to make money. Okay, so I get up and I go to my job. I get up and I create and I do and I am and I speak and I do things in a positive manner, in a magnetic, attractive way that says, I like what that guy has. I want some of that. And to me, that is a universal truth beyond hunting. That is a universal truth to better living, right?
Mm.
Like a mosquito attracted to the light and a bug zapper. Just, oh man, I don't know what it is. It's so awesome. Wow, just shocked to life. Like, if we can live like that and we can articulate with spoken word, because I believe that this is the downfall of human society, is when AI takes over and we are relying upon text message, we are relying upon email. As much as the written word is powerful, the spoken word is beyond measure, because the power of life and death lies in the tongue. And let our yes be yes and our no be no, and for us to be able to speak, for people to hear and inspire. I don't get inspired so much through written word as much as I do when someone's in front of me and I feel that energy and their passion and their exuberance of like, come on, like a William Wallace. All men are, all men die, but not all men truly live. Take up your sword. Let's go, baby. Like, if this doesn't get you jacked up right now, let's change the tide of this world. Let's make it a better place than how we found it.
Well, that's a hard one to come back from. No, I am 100% with you. I do think, if I can tease out sort of one thread of what you were just talking about, I think, what I see a little bit in our community as a deficit or as a need for improvement. I'm not going to call it a failing, but we do not do a very good job of talking about the essence of hunting to people who have no idea what we're talking about, either because they're not hunters themselves or because they have surrounded themselves with a sort of a construct that does not include hunting as a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of times we're like, even in like our ability to like talk about the technical terms or the context of it. So to me, what I try to default to is, all right, hang with me for a second. This is going to be a little bit of a meander, but I truly believe in every human. So I coach, I'm a coach. I coach cross country. And one of the hardest things to do is to tell a middle school girl, 6th or 7th grade girl, that they've got to hurt. They got to run harder and hurt, like inflict pain on their bodies in order to break through and succeed at their goal.
Yeah.
Honestly, to goodness, like that's a hard thing to articulate. And what you do is you don't articulate it through words, you do it through action. You run with them, you experience all of their sort of pain and progress in the real world with them. So I throw that out as sort of context and background. To me, the universal truth, isn't that what we're talking about here?
Yeah.
About hunting, is not the hunt. It is the pursuit of authentic experience.
Mm.
And if throw yourselves back to being 13 years old and not knowing who you are or where you're going, but you're in this like just maelstrom, just like this confused state of like, people call it the fugue state, right? Like you don't know where you're going or where you are. And like up is not necessarily up and down's not down. Like, and every human being, I think, experiences this. And that's about the time. Some people experience it earlier, some later, but this is why so many modern Americans have a complicated experience with middle school.
Mm.
Is so much happens then in terms of like identifying with what you believe in and like what you're willing to like commit to. But I feel like every modern American and French and Ukrainian and like everybody else, like this is a human thing. Like everybody goes, this is part of like becoming a fully fledged human. You have to like figure out who you are and how you exist in the world. And to me, one of the important things about that moment in time is you start to gravitate to what you think is authentic, is what's real and what like matters. And some people gravitate to like gaming, and some people gravitate to like punk rock. That was me. And some people gravitate to like prom dresses, and some people gravitate like, right? This is like the big moment where everybody like starts to truncate out. And to me, one of the great promises of hunting is that we can promise somebody in that moment of indecision, if we take them hunting at that particular time, we're going to not promise you an outcome. We're not going to tell you how it's going to end up. But we're going to promise you you're going to get the wind in your face, right, Sam?
Yes, sir.
We're going to get dirt underneath your fingernails. You're going to have a life and death experience of stuff that matters. And to me, we got to do more of that, because that moment in time for people who are at that, I can go this way or I can go that way. I really do believe we talk about hunting as human. There's something that we can connect to for the natural world that like mainstreams and experience to people at that moment.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And by the way, that wasn't meandering at all. I was right here tracking with you that entire time. I 100% agree. People want adventure in their life. There's something missing in the concrete jungle or the constant buzz of society that traps us in the minutia of day-to-day existence.
Right.
Right? My wife, I could go get her and she'd be like, I am sick and tired of doing the exact same thing day in and day out. And then come to the weekends and it feels like it's just another day, and Christmas Day and it feels like it's just another day with our kids. And, like, not that we're not grateful, but we crave adventure. We crave something of the unknown.
Yeah. Right.
It's the unknown. Go ahead, speak to it.
No, that's what I think the great promise of hunting is. It's the unknown. It's the unfulfilled pursuit of the unknown. And it's awesome when we fulfill it, right? It's so like hugely rewarding. But to me, the days and weeks and months, and in your case, Johnny, years of like unfulfilled like pursuit, those are all like formative things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very ironic, it's beautiful, is that we started this out saying that if you knew how the hunt was going to turn out, you wouldn't do it. We just went full circle right there in a short amount of time, concluding on the exact same thing, that people want to be surprised. All right, everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode. As a thank you, I got more discount codes for all of you. If you are in the market
for anything in regards to calls, whether it's elk calls, turkey calls, deer or predator calls. You can save 15% on all Rocky Mountain hunting calls by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. And if you're in the market for hard side hydration, a better way to hydrate, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10 to save 10%. And we also have a discount at Graxaw.com. That is, Graxaw is the leader in ultralight game bags and other backcountry gear. Light, fast, and efficient is their motto. Use the code SOULSEEKERS, all one word, to save 10% at checkout.
But I will it's our job as guides. Like, that's intimidating, right? Like the big unknown, like people are intimidated by the unknown, right? That's why we have religion,
Yeah.
is to create an on-ramp to the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you think about, like, it is a mind-blowingly, like, it's a big ask to have people embrace the unknown. So I think, Sam, I don't know you as well as Johnny, but like one of the things that Johnny and I have in common is like this obligation to take new people out as guides into this world of the unknown. And I think one of the things that we have to do as mentors is like prepare people for, this is where it gets hard, but you have to prepare them for like the infinite number of combinations of what could happen next.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which is like, it's an impossible to ask or task, but I think the best mentors are the ones who like, they're good coaches, right? They say, hey, we don't know what's going to happen, but you're okay. You're in good hands. You're going to be safe. And we're going to do this together with you in the lead.
Yep.
And to me, that's the magic when we mentor correctly and right. And like, we can like create that moment. That's what it's about.
Yep.
Trust, faith,
Yeah.
courage, integrity.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm missing a couple more, but I feel like, those four things are what humanity needs and what we crave. We want to trust in something or someone for our own safety, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? We need shelter before we can worry about any other extracurricular, because we need to feel safe and protected at the core of our existence. We want to trust people. We're inherently community-driven human beings. We're not meant to be isolated. So when we do a journey on our own into the unknown, it is scary. It is very few find like full-on enjoyment out of it, I would say. And I would say the rest do it to then grow into the person that they're meant to be. Kind of like old Native American spirit quests or vision quests, right? It's like these coming of age ceremonies where you got to just go, but you're going to really enjoy what you're like on the other side of this. The integrity part, to just consistently be true, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's true to the pursuit, true to the animals, true to the nature of conservation and hunting, or true to yourself. A lot of people, they don't actually know who they are, right? They're constantly searching. They don't have the right. I had this issue. So I played college football. I was a quarterback. The high school I went to was Kamiak, and my last name is Mack. So recruiting trips, I'd have to introduce myself. Yeah, I'm Johnny Mack, quarterback from Kamiak, and everyone kind of snickered like, "Oh, that rhymes." I'm like, "Yeah, it sure does." So, but the point is, I found my identity as being a football player. So when football left me, because either you leave the game or the game leaves you, at one point, when my identity went down the drain, I was left looking in the mirror being like, now what?
Who are you?
Yeah. Who am I? And so the integrity to ourselves to actually live out a life that you can say, you know what? I got this. We got this. We're still safe. We can still provide food for ourselves, for our families, a skill set. And this is where, any adjective that you want to throw out there, hunting hits, anything. But these are the things that really resonate with me. Honestly, when I lay down at night, These are a lot of things that just roll through my mind. Like, oh man, geez, like,
Well, you when we just started talking, like, do we want to like start with conservation? So, like, when we talk about like the idea of conservation, that is like so far down the pike of this because that is like it is such like a abstraction, a nebulous idea. You can't get there, and you can't even like interact with the idea of conservation, which is, I would say, the spiritual side of hunting. Like,
Mhm.
what do we owe to the animals that we hunt? You can't get there until you actually experience like this like process of figuring out who you are in the context of hunting and yeah, like you say, challenge, uncertainty, like all of those things have to come before that. So I I recognize like conservation is what we have. It's almost like the dessert or like what we like the top the foam off the soup that have earned from the people who came before us.
Mhm.
But the foam on the soup's not like the appetizing part because it's really delicious. Conservation is because it's the through line. It's what we got from the people who came before us and what we give to the people who come after us, right? Because what we've been talking about in terms of like um, the uncertainty of the hunt and the excitement of the pursuit and like the maturation of the moment is very personal.
Mm.
Like it's sort of selfish. It has to be.
Yeah.
It's like all about you and your experience with this wider world. What I think is really cool about the whole idea of conservation is once you like figure out yourself what you're doing and what you can do, then boom, your mind opens to like what do we owe the animals? What do we owe the people who come after us? What do we owe the future?
Okay, you just brought something up that I really want to ask Sam his opinion that I wasn't really aware of. And I think this will really hit home for all the people that live in cities. Because rural America understands this because a lot of times rural America lives in the house or on the property that their great grandfather owned or lived on or farmed, and it's just generation after generation. But people who live in cities, it's like, ah, this apartment or, there's not much lineage there. Sam, you were teaching me a whole lot about how you view this world, whether you know it or not. And this is the first time I've actually acknowledged him for saying this. But when you're saying, yeah, this is the land that has been in my family for generations and generations, and my family's farmed this and ranched this and done this, and I plan on having my forever house right there under those trees, and like this type of mentality that is lost on people that don't live that type of lineage and legacy of life. Whether it's a good thing or bad thing is still to be determined, but it's a great perspective that I want to hear from you after hearing him talk about conservation as more of a legacy and lineage.
Yeah.
Um, what's your take on that?
Oh man, I mean, I completely agree. It's the country that my family owns. It means a lot, and that you see these places getting sold and developed, and it even though it's not me, it hurts, to think that, man, this, my great grandparents, they farmed this country with mules, and somebody's family might have farmed it with mules, and now houses are getting built, and all that natural land and history is nobody thinks about it. It goes away.
Yeah.
So seeing things like that and managing the land and controlling the land and uh, regenerative farming and all that, it's important,
Mhm.
and I really feel it. I really do.
With you having that experience, does it now, in hearing us talk about conservation in that regards, does it draw a similarity? Do you see it more in the same avenue? And because you've been a hunter for a long time,
Yeah.
are you now like, okay, I see it, I want to run with it more?
In what regard?
Does it inspire you to be more
to advocate for conservation on a
It
larger
does,
scale.
it does for sure. Being down here in Texas, we don't think about the true conservation side as much. With that being said, where I hunt, we only kill mature deer. That's conservation. I've never thought of it like that, but it is. And so, yeah, absolutely. I strive for the deer herd. I want it to be good for my kids and their kids.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely, yeah, it's a major part.
It's fascinating. Isn't it fascinating where different regions? Here, I was from the Northwest. You are up in Montana. Sam's from Texas. And we're all talking about this thing that is so life transforming. And yet we all have different perspectives and a view on it. And we're like, oh, yeah, you're right. I guess I kind of see it like you. And yeah, that's really drawn the same conclusion that I've drawn. And it's fascinating. You know what makes a diamond so beautiful?
The cut.
The different facets on it, the different cuts, right? Because otherwise it's just something. But it's when there are the different cuts. There's the southern whitetail hunter and the Midwest hunter and the big game Western style hunter and the upland birds and the whatever conservationists, hunters, like that's what makes humanity beautiful, right? It puts the hue in human, right? Because hue is just colors, right? We're adding all the different colors to the humanity of what this world is. Bringing a tear to my eye, fellas. This, I don't know what you were planning on getting into on a Tuesday night besides Bill dressing some grouse and cooking yourself some meat. This is fun. I don't see, this is where I feel like if we can sit down and have conversations like these with people more often, they're going to walk away better people, and they're going to be like, okay, I'm ready to take action in my own life. I'm ready to take action in my community. And stop waiting for somebody else to speak up. Stop waiting for somebody else to do something and say, I'm going to be the change I want to see in the world.
Yeah, I think it's funny you say that. I think in our community of hunters, when I look back across a couple of generations of people who like brought me along, there's actually a personality trait of hunters who don't engage and or who are not like outspoken, who are like doers rather than sayers. And actually, I really appreciate that about like one of like the through lines of who we are. And I guess that maybe goes back to that adjective of authenticity that I threw out before. Like in some ways, I feel like that's a really important trait to perpetuate and to promote. The problem with it is, look at how we promote stuff right now, right? It's social media. Like you've got to be like somebody who's like a self promoter to get noticed. You've got to be somebody who like wants to let the world into your life to be like counted. And I think that's contrary to a lot of like one of the personality through lines of hunters through time, at least through the last several generations. And so I think that's a frustrating thing right now. Like we're trying to still work out what that means. Like, how do we transition from being like an authentic hunter who really doesn't want or need scrutiny or attention because this is who we are and what we do, but we also want to like broadcast ourselves and like expand what we do to a audience of people who don't know what we do, who we are and what we do. Right? The tension right there.
Yeah. I've recently concluded over the last several weeks that I've dove into this thought is that everything in life is a derivative of marketing.
Oh God, I don't want to believe that, but I might.
From the clothes we wear to the jobs we have, the cars we drive, to the likes we like, everything is from something we saw or we heard or we're told. And so it's like, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll go check it out. It's all marketing, advertising. And so you talk about, hunters being doers and not so much vocal about it. And it's like, okay, so yeah, it's a conundrum, and this is where we're at now. So what do we do? Because if it is all marketing, then we need to actually control the marketing and advertising of what hunting is for the conservation side, for to make sure it lasts for generations. You can ruin it also, right? One bad apple, that mold spreads and it can ruin a whole bunch. The issue is that, whoever controls the narrative really controls the outcome. So if everything is marketing, and we're always marketing, we're always branding ourselves and marketing ourselves. I introduced you at the beginning of this podcast, like, hey, this is his list of accomplishments. This is what he does. This is, I'm Johnny Mac. I'm blah 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 blah. And, like, we're constantly marketing and branding ourselves, whether it's for an ego-driven concept or it's just to say, all right, I'm here. I'm here. If you want to see who I am, like, this is things I've done, my resume. That is an issue that a lot of society isn't reflecting upon yet, I feel like. They're aware of it, but they're not conscious of it to the forefront of their minds and be like, okay, everything I do, everything I say, everything of how I show up has a ripple effect for positive or negative, and I need to be aware of that, conscious of it. Anyone?
Golly.
That's a biggie.
This is why I've said I've been wanting to have you on my podcast for a long time. There are a lot of topics I want to dive into with you.
I mean, I wonder, I'm just going to say it. I wonder if that is a definition or a context of our world of hunters that is fleeting, that is based around the last 5 years, maybe the next 5 years of human existence.
Mm.
And the reason I put that out, like, I'm not saying it's not real. It is. Like, what I do in terms of like having my voice amplified or amplified is all about like marketing, right? It's all about like hashtags and like who can share and like how do we like amplify the engagement. I can't believe, if I like open my mind, that this is more than a moment in time.
Mm.
And that's where I guess I go back to those things that actually really matter, and that's the authentic interaction with the natural world. Those are things that are not reliant on marketing or on technology to boost our exposure. Like, those are things that are real.
Mm-hmm.
And my hope is the more people who have that experience, like at the very like granular level, who cares what comes next, right? It's whether it's AI or whether it's Instagram or whether it's whatever, because those are real, authentic experiences that can be like translated into any medium that comes next.
Mm. I love that. That goes 100% with the surrender experiment topic of my book that I read. So that leads me to this question, though. Whether right or wrong, give me your thought on it. If we don't have our hand in conservation and the protection of wildlife and wild places, will the natural world reach an equilibrium?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm genuinely worried about that question. Like, so I mean, just to get, show my flag is like I grew up with, and I am a big proponent of like hunters fund conservation. We're the people who like advocate for the things that we love to pursue, and as a byproduct, we also benefit all the things we don't pursue, right? Like like our license dollars create and invest in habitat that's used by critters that will never ever hunt. I think that's a really important part of who we are. But if I look forward and like to try to like grasp your question a little bit, like I'm worried. I'm worried like that hunters get more marginalized all the time. Like we're this sort of like throwback freak show of like, it's easy to paint a portrait of us as like rubes, out of touch, like
Mm-hmm.
killers, not pursuers. And there's a bright line between those two to
Yeah.
me. And I think we have to do whatever we can to like perpetuate that bright line between those two. But if I look forward, like we're a kind of a quaint throwback to a simpler time that maybe is not going to be like rewarded by history as we go forward.
Mm.
So I genuinely worry, like this is where the big conservation question comes. Like, what do we owe the future? And I think we owe the future, like our commitment to the now, to perpetuating these like mechanisms that have served us really well. Like
Yeah.
we buy licenses, we pursue game animals that fulfill us in all kinds of ways, feed our families, put trophy animals on the walls. Like there's a reverence to the wildlife values that we like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as a byproduct, geez Louise, how many armadillos have we saved because we've like got habitat for them? Or I was making this very Texas centric, right?
Yeah. It's
But I
funny.
think that's important. Like it's not just the things that we care about that benefit from our actions.
Mm-hmm.
And I worry. I just genuinely worry about like how the future will reward that ethic.
This is it's I grew up hunting. Everybody I knew grew up hunting. And so it was never really exposed to me that really anybody would not be interested in hunting, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what we all did, you know. Getting to know Johnny and seeing, getting on the social media and learning, I didn't realize that people out west and in other states where great hunting is, that they don't hunt, or there's people that don't hunt. And it was eye-opening to me to realize that there's so many people that not only are against hunting but just have never done it. Being from where I'm from, everybody did it. It was normal. It was tradition. It was generational. So it was something that I've learned through Johnny is we really got to stand up for it.
Yeah.
And being down here in Texas, I've never really had to stand up for it because it was part of life,
Right.
So it's very eye-opening to me to expand my vision of the situation.
Yeah. I love hearing that. I will tell you firsthand, moving to Texas and being like, okay, Washington, sayonara, baby. All your WDFW board members that are installed and not voting based off of biological biology people information and voting against the science. I'm like, see you later. I don't have to deal with that anymore. I'm in Texas, baby. Woo. And I'm like, no, that's an ignorant viewpoint.
Yeah.
Because if I really want hunting to last, then I need to stand for it regardless of where it is.
Yeah.
First they came for the trappers, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a trapper. And then they came for the houndsmen, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a houndsman. And then they came for the predator hunters, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a predator hunter. And then they came for me, and there's no one left to say anything. And that resonates with me day in and day out. It's like, you spoke of religion earlier. Whether people hear this and have a religious viewpoint on the world or not, there's a lot of talk in like Christianity. They're like, what's your worldview of Christianity? Because so often or not, we have tunnel vision on like what we know we apply just to our personal existence day in and day out, rather than a grander scale of like, this actually could be applying to other things beyond me, which is how I view hunting and conservation. Is like, if we are only focused on our big buck that we're hunting during the rut of the whitetail season, and we don't care about it any other time, then we're doing everyone a disservice. And then we're not true conservationists.
Yep.
We're just people experiencing a time and a season.
Yeah. I got to go pretty quick. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
No, I think it is, if you want to like, I mean, man, the whole religiosity part of it is a big part, but one of the wisest people I have ever talked to was a man of the cloth who said, I think said, it's not important to me whether you believe in God. What's important is that you pursue the idea of the sacred. And whether you find that in conventional, like religion, does not matter to me. But that has always stuck with me. As long as you are open to the question and as long as you are pursuing the sacred, you've got a place in my tent.
I love it. It's a great way to wrap it up. As long as you are on a pursuit, as long as you are continuing to search and to grow and to know more, then there's room. Then there's room for you, for sure. Either you're green and growing or you're ripe and rotting.
Well, I don't know. What about like ripe and prime?
Perfect. And they'll just ride it out. Brother, I'm truly honored that you joined us for an episode of the show.
Yeah, it's just great.
Something that has been a long time coming, and I really hope this is not the last time that you and I
Me too. This is really good to
get to share this. So, Sam, thanks for being a part of this, sharing your perspective.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
What hunts you got left coming up? It's November already. You got anything going on?
Man. Yes, I've got a cow elk tag in the Missouri River Breaks. I hope to get after in a couple of days, and then I'm going to Kentucky for a whitetail hunt, and I'm going to go to Oklahoma for a waterfowl hunt. And yeah, there's a bunch of stuff coming up. It's going to be fun.
Perfect. Maybe come down to Texas for a hog hunt or something like
that. Actually, that's an invitation. I'm there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I hope that you found some inspiration out of this, because inspired people inspire people. And it is up to us to be the change we want to see in the world as we continue to share our mission of mentorship as conservation. Remember that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure, and that you can never outgive good, as it is the best thing that you can ever give somebody, is the ability to self-sustain their own life and to be a better person in this world. Hope you feel inspired and you're led to take some action in your own life. Remember that if you want to find out more about everything that we're doing here at the show, you can go to soulseekersnation.com and you can check out more podcast episodes. Don't forget to go over to carbontv.com and check out our most recent episode in Season 3 of Soul Seekers that's being released, as we got Season 4 filming currently. Be blessed, everybody. Remember that life is happening for you. It's not happening to you. Freedom on, and stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating, as it helps us share our mission of mentorship as conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure. If you want to get more connected with the podcast, check out the Soul Seekers Nation Facebook group, as I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. So stay tuned and stay soulful.